So the purpose of tonight is really to give you a bit of an update and some insight into what happens as part of the auction process at DBSJP, which is a really exciting time for our current Year 11s and for those Year 11s that are joining us from outside of DBSJP. It's an opportunity for the British curriculum and the choices that students make to start to become a little bit more narrow, and we'll go into what that looks like and how those option choices can be made in the presentation, and also to give you an overview of what those qualifications actually mean in terms of moving on to further education and taking on possibly degrees or going into the world of work, which is also one of the kind of destination pathways as well. So we'll start with the presentation. So I'm going to ask Mr. Casham to share his screen for me. I don't know whether you'd like to introduce yourself as well, Mr. Casham.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and see our presentation today. It's lovely to have so many familiar parents and names on the chat and the meeting. We're going to start just by introducing or sharing you some aspects of the sixth form that's been created by our students, and hopefully that will give you a nice kind of intro. So if I share there, and
as an A-level student, the Sixth Form Centre is a good environment to work as well as socialise with your friends.
I do Btec, 2 A-levels. It inspires me to work hard in this environment.
The sixth form creates such an atmosphere that promotes more productivity among students.
The small class sizes make learning easier and more personal.
okay, so we wanted to give you some information about how the sixth form process is going to be, but before we get to that, it'd be good for us to give you an insight of what the bigger picture looks like. So I'm going to hand it over to Mrs. Wade.
Okay, so the British curriculum, those of you that are unfamiliar with the British curriculum, the British system, we have our year groups divided up into what we call key stages. So Year 11 would be the top end of our key stage 4. And key stage 4 is all about achieving what we call level 2 qualifications. So they would be our GCSEs, our IGCSEs, or level 2 Btecs. And once they've achieved those level 2 qualifications, that is the kind of process that then allows them to move up into key stage 5, or our sixth form, and that is where we start on the level 3 qualifications, which would be our A levels and Btecs, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Once we've done those level 3 qualifications, and once we've achieved obviously the level of success to enable us to move on to level 4 qualifications are those ones that are offered at universities or further educational institutions. So the table in front of you just gives you an idea of where those levels kind of work, and this is just the way in which the British curriculum and the British exams boards divide up and assign different kind of levels of learning and of achievement across the curriculum. So Year 11s, as I've said, they're doing their GCSEs and IGCSEs. Now you can see within that level 1 and level 2 that if we get 5 GCSEs at grade 6s or above, that is when we would be recommending that those subjects would be ones that we feel that they would be successful moving into key stage 5, our level 3 qualifications and A levels. So in terms of what we offer at DBSJP for key stage 5, which is our sixth form, and our level 3 qualifications, we offer 2 different types of course. One is the GCE A level, or the advanced level. Another is the Btec International Level 3s, and we're going to talk about the blended curriculum there as well. Now, both of these 2 qualifications are at this, what we call this level 3 qualification level. So their equivalency is the same in terms of the ability to move on once achieving success in these and moving forward. Now, in terms of the curriculum, we do offer a range of subjects, and we'll be giving you links to those option booklets and the subjects which we offer in school at a later point during the presentation, so that you can see what those look like. So we're going to take the GCE advanced level first of all, and we're going to go through exactly what that looks like. So A levels are perhaps something that you are more familiar with and you've perhaps heard about. Now, these advanced levels are internationally recognised qualifications that are accepted widely across many universities across the globe. They are a UK-based exam and they are UK kind of examination board accredited, but they will enable students to get into access into universities in lots of different countries. Now, the advanced level is very, very challenging in terms of the content which is covered, and the approach is very much about studying the theory of the subject and looking at investigative work that could then support that. Now, the current A-levels which are in place were new specifications which were introduced in September 2015, and they were just an adaptation of some of the content to allow those to include some more recent case studies, some more recent research that have gone into the subject areas. The other big change that came in with these new specifications is that it became what we call a fully linear exam course. Now, what that means is that students don't take exams going through the course. They actually study for the full 2-year period. And then at the end of that 2-year period, they then take their 4 sets of exams, which then gives them the grade that they acquire for that A-level. Now, in previous years, those of you that perhaps have got older children that have gone through when ASs were still kind of a qualification, our advanced subsidiary, or AS, which would be equivalent to half of an A-level, used to be offered as part of the kind of qualification towards A-level. Now, that's no longer the case, and ASs are actually a separate qualification that sits separate to the A-level. So the A-level course is that two-year formal exams at the end of the 2 years, and they are graded with gradings A* to E, and obviously the fail is on there as well if we don't meet the minimum requirements. So slight change to the GCSEs, which are our 9-to-1 system. We're actually on the letter grading for those subjects. The other type of qualifications which we offer is our Btec International Level 3, and these are, each of those subjects are equivalency in terms of the A-level. So the big difference is a very different approach to how these subjects are delivered, and also how they're examined and how the qualifications are awarded. Now, with the international Btecs, we're actually looking at more career-based qualifications, and it is very much a skills-based approach that can lead on, again, to those university applications. Now, the assessment method is the big difference in terms of how students can achieve and how they can gain the qualifications for these qualifications. The approach here is that they actually do an assessment method, which is doing assignments that go on during the whole of the 2-year course, and those are assessed at those points during the 2 years. And so students will build up a portfolio of work, which is marked and graded, so that they've got a very clear kind of building up of their grades through the year. Now, within these qualifications, it's more kind of coursework based and project based, and so they do build up those very different skill sets. It isn't an exam subject. It's not done as a final formal exam in the way that the A-levels are done. It is built up over those 2 years. So it's very, very good for students that work well in those kind of environments, or students that find the examinations actually a very difficult way for them to show the skills and qualities which they have. The gradings of these are also slightly different, and we'll show you kind of a comparison as to what these gradings actually equate to in a moment. Is we do have a distinction and distinction star, which are our very top grades. So they would be up there with the kind of highest achieving students. We then have a merit, and then obviously a pass grade as well. So slightly different in terms of the way in which they're graded, but again, it's to take into account those different assessment methods and the way in which the students build up their portfolio of work. So in terms of what this means, and we're going to use the UK tariff charts, just because from a British or a UK, if we're looking to move back into the UK system, just in terms of what those grades mean in terms of getting access into university or the kind of UCAS system. So we can see the table on the left is our A-level grading, and we've got the A* through E, and the UCAS tariff points, which we've got on the side there, is looking at the kind of the 56, the 48, going through 40 and downwards. The table on the right is our Btec National Level 3 qualifications in terms of what the tariff points mean for UCAS for those ones as well. So you can see that the A* in the A-level is equivalent to that D* in terms of our Btec Nationals. So in terms of the grading coming through, and obviously our distinction runs at the 48, which is the A. So students achieving those distinction stars in our Btec national or international qualifications, the equivalency is to those very top A-level gradings that we've got, and it is just that different method of attaining those grades either through exams with the A-levels or through that kind of coursework approach with the Btec qualifications. You can see there is a slight difference in terms of there's a little bit of a jump down when we go into the merits. So merit in Btec is worth 32 UCAS tariff points, and obviously that would equate to our C grade at kind of the A level. So that's just a kind of a snapshot of what those grades actually mean in terms of those equivalencies and how that might enable entrance into universities. And obviously universities will often ask for particular A-level grades or particular tariff points in terms of those UCAS grades, and obviously the Btecs will equate to those. So in terms of the options that we have such a broad curriculum here. We have a wide range of subjects, and as part of that, we kind of do encourage students to kind of have a selection of subjects running through. So this is our current A-level blocks that we have on offer for the next academic year, so for year 11 going into year 12. So we've got blocks of kind of 5 blocks running across with a range of different subjects within each of those. And within each of those blocks, you can see we've got a huge range of subjects which we are covering. Now, with the A-levels, and I think the key thing to remember is that with A-levels, it is starting to become very specialist, and with our Btec subject as well, the recommendation is that from these blocks, students select 3 subjects. Universities are now looking for the top 3 grades in most cases, and it is making sure that students are picking those subjects which they're going to be most successful in, and that they can really do the highest levels of achievement for them. So you can see that's our kind of range of subjects, and this is in our options booklet, which those of you within school have received this afternoon prior to this meeting, and we'll also be sharing the link as to where you can get that electronically from our website, following on from obviously today's presentation. The one thing that I would mention or kind of highlight for you is you'll notice that in block D we have got something called a ministry Arabic. Now that ministry Arabic is a mandatory subject for Arabic A students, and it is mandatory for them to study that. So within option D, if you are an Arabic A student, it is necessary for you to take that ministry Arabic as one of the options, and that would be in addition to the obviously the 3 choices that you'd be making from subject areas.
I think this is a really good opportunity to discuss how the option blocks are and how you're going to come to make that decision, because it is a really difficult decision going from such a wide range of subjects going down to 3 or maybe sometimes even 4 subjects. There's a lot of things to consider here. One of the main things to think about is where you think your son or daughter is going in terms of their career choices, or where they want to go in terms of their career choices. And in the options booklet, when you get a chance to look at that, please do have a look at each of those options that your son or daughter is interested in, to see what prospects can arrive or can open up as a result of it. There are a wide range of options there, as you can see, and we want your son or daughter to choose options that not only lead them to the best place in terms of their future, in terms of success, but also ones that they're going to be happy doing, ones that are going to lead them to the best outcome. Because at this stage, when we're thinking about university and career aspirations, grades are something that is very much prominent in terms of deciding whether someone is successful in their candidacy. The option blocks are as they are right now. However, we've done this options evening at this time because we have the flexibility if we do find that there are some clashes or some options where students potentially want to do something that's in the same block, or 2 subjects in the same block. We have that opportunity to have that conversation to see if we can make some adjustments, and we've been really happy and proud to be able to do that in previous years, and we'd love to be able to do that if necessary here. So please don't worry if you're looking at those blocks thinking, oh no, my son or daughter wants to do 2 subjects in the same block. That means that they're not going to be able to kind of pursue both of those passions or both of those kind of options, and that is always a conversation that we can have to facilitate what's best for our students. So I'm actually sitting here in the Sixth Form Centre, which is a wonderful space, and we've been really proud of how we've been able to shape that space, and I'd like to talk to you about how we've done that and how it's come to where it's come to at this stage. One of the things that's really essential in terms of our student success is not just their academic ability, but actually how they approach their learning and all of the opportunities that arise. And within our Curriculum Plus sessions, our sessions within outside of their subject areas, we've got a big focus on an aspect or an area called VESPA. It's essentially a mindset where we promote various aspects that contribute to success at GCSE and A-level. Now, obviously, we know about the importance of content knowledge and academic skill, but what VESPA focuses on is the non-cognitive skills, the approach to how you make the most of those learning opportunities. And VESPA stands for 5 key words, and that's how it breaks it down into those 5 components. V standing for vision, how well do you know what you want to achieve? The effort, the amount of time and kind of commitment that students put in on their own outside of lessons. The systems, how students organize their learning and how they organize their time to make sure that they've allocated that in the right way, to make sure that they've made the most of everything. How they practice, because doing something is very different depending on how you approach that. Looking at a book is very different to actually practicing questions, and that's really something that's a really influential component, actually. And last but not least, attitude, because there's a high level of challenge at at A-level and Btecs and in sixth form, and what we want to make sure is that students respond to those setbacks in the right way, and if there is kind of failures or kind of bumps along the way, that's okay. That's part of the journey, and they embrace that and they learn from that to make them go even further and do even better. So as I was saying, we've had a great journey in shaping the sixth form, and a few years ago, when we hadn't opened the sixth form, we had our year 11s come together to give their own student voice about how they'd like certain aspects of the sixth form to be. And one of the things that we're really proud of is how they've shaped the uniform. We had options of kind of 3 different kind of key points. We could have had a school uniform for the sixth form. We could have had totally non-uniform, and we had somewhere in the middle, which was the office attire. And on the screen, hopefully you'll be able to see some of the input that the students put in. And what they did was they had the time to think about the pros, the cons of shaping the uniform to see what was best for them. And we established that the uniform in the sixth form is going to be the approved business attire. The reason for that is because it brings along the professional approach to learning, which is really, really important, because we're preparing them for the real world. And this is one of the last few steps before they join the working world, and they have to present that professionalism and hold that to make sure that they're in the right environment. And also being the sixth form, they are the role models of the school. So it's a great opportunity to show our younger students something that they should aspire to be like. And these are things that the students have really come towards, and it's something that they really enjoyed being a part of in terms of the journey. In also designing the sixth form, this is something that they really have kind of changed over the years, is how the sixth form looked. When we looked at it at the start, this was the space that I'm in was blank white walls and an empty open space. And it was something that we really prided ourselves in terms of having the chance to give them that choice. Things that they asked for is about the lockers that they wanted, a special type of locker that was different to the ones that they've had in previous years. They wanted to make sure the space was the right environment, that there wasn't too many distractions or any background noise. They wanted color added to the walls and famous quotes that they voted for to give them some inspiration. They like the opportunity of having this as a space, not just for learning, but also for their downtime. So they requested to have a fridge, a microwave, and a kettle. And it's a really nice environment that has that warmth, which I'm hoping that you saw in the intro video as well. For our students, it's not just about their academics. It's also about preparing them with the skills that they need to be successful leaders in the future. And we're very proud of our senior student leadership team. It's a fantastic team, and they have put themselves forward with a very tough process to drive lots of change in the school. And that's something that we really want to carry on in the future years. And the year 11 students now who will be coming in will have the opportunity to be part of that student leadership team and be part of all of the various initiatives that will be available to them. So that's a little flavor of what the sixth form is like. And there's obviously so many things that we could talk about, but we wanted to give you a flavor of what the sixth form is like in terms of how we've shaped it, and also give you the opportunity to ask any questions about things that you might be curious about in terms of our sixth form. If I open up the chat, it will be a great opportunity for you to write anything, or if you feel confident, you can unmute your microphone and ask questions, and we'll be happy to answer anything that you want to find out about
One of the kind of biggest questions people ask is, do I just have to do A-levels? Is that something that I have to just do all 3 A-levels, or do I just do Btec? Is there any option of any flexibility? The answer is 100%. We do offer all 3 options. If your children, if they want to do purely A-levels and they want to make sure that that is the only thing they're doing, and they're really keen on that academic exam-based subjects, and they want to look into their theory of the subject and get down to the real nitty-gritty of the subject, then obviously they can choose purely A-levels. On the flip, that some students within the sixth form currently are doing all Btecs because they know that is their preferred way of working. They might have a particular career in mind. So some of our Btec performing arts students that are currently in year 13, obviously they're doing a double award for that, and many of them have already got their places accepted for university for next year. So they have got that really, really clear career path where they're saying, actually, no, these Btecs are going to work really well for me and what I want to achieve. And on the flip of that, there is that blend. So there is that ability to have 1 Btec or 2 Btecs joined with the A-levels. So there is that ability to kind of blend those things across. So we try and be as flexible as possible to make sure that we're meeting as many people's needs as possible. So I can see some of the questions are beginning to pop in. So we'll start to get some of those answered for you. Let's just go to the top.
Sure. The first question we have is, how many students are there currently in the sixth form? We currently have 94 students in year 12 and 13 combined. That's a fantastic number, and it's grown over the 2 years. We have, as Ellie mentioned, we have a variety of students doing various different pathways, interested in medicine. We have an Oxford applicant. We have students interested in engineering, law, and a variety of other things. If I go down to the next question, does double Btec business score double points for university scores? Yeah, absolutely. So if you're carrying out a double Btec business, in terms of the option blocks, you choose the single and the double, and it's equivalent to 2 A-levels. So the grading would be 2 of those grades. So it'd be distinction star, or distinction, and so on. Let's see what else we have. Can we describe the ECA available? Yeah, absolutely. So we have a very full ECA schedule that we're rolling out. Currently, our year 12s are the first year group, and actually it's been offered to year 13s to participate in the EPQ. That stands for the Extended Project Qualification. It's a fantastic way to allow students to get an insight into how to research a project and kind of pursue an interest that's beyond their kind of current level of study in A-level and Btec. It's been a fantastic kind of aspect that's allowed students to get into university courses as well. It's equivalent to an AS level, and it's one of the things that we're really, really keen to kind of push on beyond that. We also have our wonderful sports ECAs that are going to be running as usual, and as things start to relax with the regulations or the restrictions because of COVID, we're hoping to open up a lot more of those things. Today we actually had a sixth form match, the sixth form boys, and actually a year 11 who's in here as well. The parent is in here against JBS. I'm not sure how the result went, but we know that that's definitely happening as well.
So within the ECA program, there is the option, if students want to do Duke of Edinburgh and some of those external expeditions, now that we're starting to be able to get out the kind of classrooms and out into the open air. So I know that is something lots of children are really, really keen to get involved in, to make sure that they're building that kind of, not just what's happening in school, but also what they're doing outside of their classrooms, as those kind of extra little bits of kind of glitter that they're adding on to those things. Next question was about for AS level, can they opt for this? We generally recommend that if you are looking to achieve the A level in a subject, the AS papers are incredibly different in terms of the format and in terms of the kind of way in which they're assessed. And if I'm a geography teacher by trade, so if you were to do the geography AS and then go on to do the geography A2, the AS grade actually becomes null and void. It actually gets almost kind of defunct because it gets trumped by the A2. If there is a circumstance, because in some areas they do require maths or English, if you're going to certain universities, to be done up to the end of year 12, we can offer that in exceptional circumstances, but it isn't a recommendation because of the time and preparation that we'd need to go into preparing for those exams, in terms of lost curriculum time and things like that. But if there is a particular offer, obviously it's really important you approach myself, Mr. Casham, to kind of explore the need for that in the first instance.
The next question was about, is it possible to add new subjects to the option list, such as law? Last week, Ms. Sanders, the head of Year 11, actually put out a student voice to all of Year 11 to ask about what their kind of top 4 choices were in terms of options, and actually if they had any other choices that aren't on that list, if they could kind of express that interest. So it's something that we are looking at. We want to make sure that it's a course that's viable. If we don't have enough numbers for a course, it's sometimes less likely to be successful. So we are looking at how we can make the best fit for our students. Absolutely.
The minimum grades question, which is the next one kind of coming on. In the option booklets, there is the list of all of the subjects that we're offering at sixth form for Btec and for the A levels. And within those are the recommendations in terms of what levels or what subjects they need to have achieved at kind of IGCSE or GCSE or at the level 2 Btecs. Some subjects, the gradings will be slightly higher than others just in terms of the base knowledge. And I'm going to pass this question or bounce this question over to Mr. Cashin, because there's another maths question, which if you can just explain the maths requirements as to why the level for maths is slightly higher, and then answer that question on maths and further maths.
Sure. I mean, for maths and actually for physics, they are both A levels that are particularly challenging. And for that reason, the foundation knowledge that students need to be successful is sometimes slightly higher. In terms of historical, our experience in terms of candidates coming in, candidates who enter with a high grade 7 in maths are in a position where they can move on to achieve potentially maybe a grade B at A level. That's not to say that that's a cap and they can't do more than that, but it is sometimes important to consider the fact that where you start determines where you finish. And for that reason, we have higher expectations for some of those more challenging options like maths and further maths. If further maths is an option, obviously maths is something that they need to do beyond that. So if you were considering doing a further maths A level, you'd need to be coming in at an 8 or actually in fact a 9 to be successful. It's not to say that it's impossible to start the course, it's just the implications of what grade a student is going to be able to achieve at the end of it is at risk of not being what you want it to be. And that has a knock-on effect in terms of their ability to get onto courses in the future. The implications of not having 3 A-level or Btec qualifications is really serious when it comes to being able to get onto university courses.
There's a question coming on Btecs and how do you achieve the DDD, which is obviously one of the top grades in there, the equivalent to 3 A's at the A level. The way that those grades are done is over the course of the year, there'll be a number of assignments for each of the units which they study. And each of the assignments they do get graded on the distinction star and kind of merit. To get the distinction, they would have to consistently get that D going across the whole course. So it would be added up and then there's a kind of a formula that kind of goes in. But realistically, for you to achieve that D, it's getting Ds on each of those assignments through the 2-year course would enable them to get the D in each of the single subjects. So perhaps a D in travel and tourism, a D in business studies, and a D in performing arts would be through all of those courses running through.
It says, when do we have to finalize our options? Great question. On the screen are some forthcoming dates that are going to be linked to maybe year 11 in particular. But the deadline for the options forms to be handed in is Sunday, the 5th of December. The reason for that is it gives us enough time to process that, to look and see how we can make that work in the best way, to assess the suitability of students onto the courses that they want to go on to, and see how that fits in terms of, is that going to get them to the career aspirations they want to head towards.
Yeah, so the performing arts can be done as a single award or a double award. So it's completely up to you as to how kind of area based you want that to be. In our current cohort, we've got two groups. We've got a year 12 group and a year 13 group. Both of those are kind of running currently, and the double award is worth two A levels. If we've got a particularly talented one, there is the option for those really, really talented students to take an extended option of that qualification, which would then potentially lead to a third, but that wouldn't be offered out as a normal. That would be at the end of year 12 if we're seeing that overperformance and that kind of extension that could be offered as kind of a third, but they would also be running an A level or another Btec alongside that. So it would be quite high demands in terms of workload and challenge. Oh, and I can see the team won 4-2 this afternoon. So absolutely excellent news on the sports teams. Yes. Thank you very much for posting that.
The question about wanting to do biology and Arabic A, that's absolutely still possible. The Arabic A has been placed in that block, but that doesn't mean that it's fixed in there. We wouldn't hold anyone back from doing the options that they want to do, as long as they're suitable for that course, of course. And we could always look to move that Arabic A block to a different block. It's just been placed there for now, based around what we've got this year for our current year 12s. And we want to make sure that we can make that fit in the best way. So it's not impossible if someone is interested in doing something in option block D, but is Arabic A, because Arabic A is obviously a compulsory option for our Arabic A students.
Hi, evening everyone. Sorry, I am at home and I'm here with my mum hat on, but I can't help but jump in and support Ellie and Emran this afternoon. Just a word of advice, because I know there's been conversations about law and I've had previous conversations with parents about engineering, A-levels, etc. Just be really wary. My son will hate me because I'll be doing this with him over the next few weeks and nagging him, but it's worth doing all your kind of forward planning when it comes to university entries before looking at A-level choices, because for a lot of university courses, they won't want a specialism necessarily at A-level. So if your child is wanting to study law and have a career ahead as a lawyer, actually law at A-level is not the best option. There are other subjects that would be preferred. Equally with engineering, a Btec in engineering or an A-level engineering is not necessarily the preferred entry route for the universities. So it's always worth double checking that you're not giving them a subject or offering them a subject that actually isn't going to benefit them in accessing the university requirements. A lot of specialist degrees, aside from medicine, dentistry, veterinary science, etc., don't need the specialisms at A-level, and actually they will encourage a breadth of subject choices from the students. So try not to get too hooked up on the careers at the moment, but certainly do the forward planning with the universities to make sure you're not limiting entry at that point.
Let's have a look at the next question. What if the number of people opting for an A-level is low? Will the A-level still be offered? That really depends on the course itself. If it's a course, for instance, like drama, it'd be very difficult for it to run with low numbers because there's a lot of collaboration, which is involved in drama, and it'd be a lot of monologues, which maybe wouldn't bring out the best grade. However, on the other hand, if there is a subject that can run with low numbers, for instance, we've got 2 students in year 12 doing English language this year. That's definitely something that we could explore. It's all about what's right for the students to bring out the best success. And if it's going to do that, then it's definitely worth considering, and whether it's something that's viable to work. But it would depend on the subject and the individual case.
One of the questions is on the options form. That's actually the last page. If you have a look at the options booklet, on the last page of that booklet, there is the options form, which is just obviously getting the ideas of where you're thinking in terms of those subject choices. And then in terms of what happens, someone's asked is what happens if we don't get the results that you were expecting. Obviously that would be kind of a worst case scenario, but as soon as those results come out, myself, Mr. Cash and the senior leadership team in secondary are all on hand to look at possible alternatives in the first instance and look at where there might be levels of success, or whether it's kind of something that actually there's extenuating circumstances around that might give some context to that. So that would be, if that does happen, it's a case of getting in contact with us, coming in and talking to us so that we can look at the best kind of path forward with that. The option form is being shared with students currently, so that's all happening through pastoral team and Ruth Saunders, who's the head of year 11, so she's kind of on that. She'll be sharing that information with the 11s.
So we have a question about if the student's doing well in math and drama, is that possible to choose both? Yeah, so when we get that form in, that's the best time for us to know if there are any clashes that students are interested in. And that gives us the opportunity to see whether it's possible for us to shift some blocks around to make sure that we can kind of satisfy everyone's requests. So when if a student wants to do 2 things in one subject, please make sure that's just clear on the form for us to assess and see. If I go back to the option choices and whether students are not kind of meeting the requirements, that's often a conversation that happens for our internal students preemptively, and actually for our external students as well, something that happens based on what we get in terms of feedback. The objective as always is to make sure that our students are successful in terms of getting the grades that are going to bring out the best in their future. So there will often be a conversation that happens beforehand if we're worried about an option choice that might not be suitable for that student. If at the end of that we still find that there's a bit of uncertainty and there's a possibility that they could be successful on that. In the past, we have let students go on to certain courses if they're very close to the entry requirements, although it doesn't happen very often. But what we have in place, which is something that's very, very useful for us, is within the first 4 weeks of year 12, we have an assessment week, and that allows us to see the suitability of our students for the courses that they've opted for. That's not necessarily to judge them in terms of what they're heading towards, but just to make sure that they're on the right courses. And if they are to change, then at least they have enough time to change on to something else. Again, we'd rather they weren't changing courses at that point, but we do have fail-safes in place to make sure that students are on the right track for what they need to do, if that makes sense.
I think the other one was on product design for low numbers. Again, I think it's been talked about in relation to some of the other subjects. It would be depending on how low those numbers were and whether or not it would work for that subject to have kind of very small numbers. So obviously drama is a case in point. It's very difficult to do a group performance if there's only kind of 1 or 2 people in there. So it would be down to individual subjects and kind of how they work. So obviously for new joiners that are looking to join in September of next academic year, it would be a case of the offers would all be subject to obviously meeting the entry requirements that are going on there. So we would make sure that you're kind of informed of that, and as soon as you've got those GCSE results in, that would be the point that we would then kind of allocate the kind of firm offer, if that makes sense. So I think that's answered that. It looks as though that's most of the questions answered at the moment, because I'm sure that in the coming weeks there is going to be lots more questions. And I think as you start to chat with your children, when they start to talk with their teachers, that all of those things will start to kind of almost pose more questions. So it looks, I think that we are pretty much there, but obviously we will be sending out, I think Mr. Casham is going to post for you into the chat now, the link. It's just done that for me, brilliant. The link into the page on our website where you can find all of that option information. Now on there is the options booklet, first of all, which is the kind of copy of where everything is, and just goes through in the kind of what the subjects are, how you can select them, and the option process. So it's the kind of reiteration of what we've talked about today in terms of our sixth form. It also gives you the outline of the courses and the exam boards for each of those courses running through, so that you can see which A-level options there are available, what Btec options there are available, and obviously that all links through. And then obviously moving forward next week for our internal students, we've got our Year 11 Parents' Evening kind of coming up. So there is a great opportunity there to talk to the subject teachers. But if you just want to hear some general information about the courses on that web link, there is also subject videos for you to click on and have a look through and see kind of what exciting stuff our different faculties are offering for those subject choices. So thank you very much for coming on this evening. I really appreciate you kind of coming and getting involved and for posing all those questions, which is really exciting. This is a really exciting time for your children. It's a great opportunity for them, first of all, to explore the potential of these A-level option choices, but also for them to start to think about their futures in university, in the world of work, and thinking about where they might want to go to in the future. So it is incredibly exciting, very nerve-wracking, and as a parent I know that it is incredibly difficult to take that step back sometimes and let them think about where they want to go, and making sure that they're kind of putting themselves in the best possible position. If there is anything you need, please do get in contact with us, either come in, drop us a line via email or kind of ring in, and please do let us know if we can help you with anything at all on that.
Thank you so much for your time, ladies and gents. Yeah, please don't hesitate to contact us if you do have any questions. That's something we really pride ourselves in. So if there's anything you're unsure about, want to talk about, please don't hesitate to reach out.